Hola! Welcome to our podcast, The Memory Keepers, in which realities faced by the Latinx caregivers of ADHD patients and their interactions with the systems of care are addressed. This is a series of 10 dynamic episodes filled with information and real experiences of people caring for their loved ones. This is a virtual educational space directed to social workers and the providers of the large systems of care. However, this series is inspired by the Latinx caregivers of Alzheimer's disease and related dementia patients and everything that involves their reality. This podcast is completely educational without any profit or any other interest in sharing the information and educating the community. My name is Siliva Here, and I am your host for the series. I am so pleased to share this space with all of you. My pronouns are she, her, hers, y en español, soy ella. I am a Latin Black colon immigrant, a daughter, a sister, aunt, mother, wife, friend, a strong believer in spirituality. I'm an able-bodied, lifelong learner, committed to challenging systemic racism. I'm a social worker, highly motivated by social justice issues. And overall, I am a caregiver for an ADHD patient. On that note, I want to acknowledge that I'm currently residing in Massachusetts. This land belongs to the Wampanoag and the Mashpee tribes, and other native indigenous population displaced from their ancestral territory. On the first episode of the Memory Keepers, we talk about Alzheimer's disease-related dementias and how it affects the Latinx population. Now, in our second episode, we will explore the cultural nuances that identify the Latinx community. We will discuss the importance of family dynamics, traditional values, and the impact of language in acculturation on caregiving experiences. Gender expectations and the financial aspects of caring will be presented, along with their unique challenges and experiences these caregivers face, often unseen and underrepresented on the mainstream discussions about caregiving. So what are the distinctive characteristics of the Latin population? As a Latinx member myself, I have experienced most of the relevant factors that will be addressed on this episode firsthand. From adaptation to redefining positionalities, it has been a journey in which I identify with the characteristics that define us as a Latinx person within the United States, spanning from understanding the terms such as Latino, Hispanic, or Latinx before migrating here were foreign to me. Before deciding to start a new life in the United States, there were other identifying terms based on the place of birth, such as the city or the state, the skin complexion, family last name, place of work, favorite sports, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about the importance of the Latinx population in the United States. The Latinx population in the United States played a pivotal role in shaping the nation's social, economic, and cultural landscape. The latest census reported that as of 2021, there were approximately 62.5 million Latinos in the U.S., constituting about 90% of the total population. So who encompasses this group of people? According to the Britannica Encyclopedia, 21 countries are included in the geographical and cultural region known as Latin America. Como 2022 indicated those countries: Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, México, Nicaragua, Panamá, Paraguay, Uruguay, Puerto Rico, y Venezuela. It is also important to note that the Guinea Equatorial in Africa is another country that also speaks Spanish as the first language. So the term Latin America encompasses countries in Central America, South America, and the Caribbean, where Romance language that are derived from the Latin, prevail. Though diverse, Latin American nations generally share colonial histories, cultural connections. Therefore, there is a mix of language that comes along from Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Those languages had created a sense of shared identity across the region. So, what is the right term? It is Latino, it is Hispanic, it is Latinx. Which one is it? Although the three terms have been historically used, the Pew Research Center argues that more recently a new neutral pan-ethnic label has emerged. Latinx is the term that has been used as an alternative for entertainment outlets, corporations, local governments, and universities to describe the nation's Hispanic population. Another scholar, Noé Bustamante, in 2020, along with another scholars, assert that the emergence of the term Latinx coincides with a global movement to introduce gender-neutral nouns and pronouns into many languages whose grammar has traditionally used male or female constructions. In the United States, the first use of Latinx appeared more than a decade ago, and it was added to a widely used English dictionary in 2018, reflecting its greater use. The emergence of Hispanic, Latino, and Latinx. Throughout the last half-century of the U.S., different pan-ethnic terms had arisen to describe Americans who trace their roots to Latin American and Spain. The U.S. government first used the term Hispanic in 1970, after Mexican American and other Hispanic organizations lobbied the federal government to collect data on the population. Subsequently, the U.S. Congress passed the Public Law 94-311 in 1976, mandating the collection of information about the U.S. residents of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Central American, South American, and other Spanish-speaking countries' origin. The law called for the U.S. Census Bureau to create a broader category that encompassed all people who identified as having roots in these countries. The term Hispanic was first used in the false census in 1980. In 1990, brought resistance to the term Hispanic, as it embraces a strong connection with Spain, and an alternative emerged for another term, and this term is Latino. By 1997, the U.S. Office of Management and Budget issued a direct adding Latino to government publications. The two terms are used interchangeably, with Latino first appearing alongside Hispanic on the U.S. Census on the year 2000. More recently, Latinx has emerged as an alternative to Hispanic and Latino. Online researches for the term among the general U.S. population appeared online in the early 2000s. But the first substantial rise in search relative to all online searches appeared on June 2016, following the shooting at Pulse nightclub on the LGBTQ+ dance club in Orlando, Florida, that was hosting its Latin night on the day of the attack. In subsequent years, the term use of social media by celebrities, politicians, and grassroots organizations has grown. In addition, some academic centers at community college, public universities, and Ivy League universities are replacing Latino programs names established in previous decades with new Latinx-focused names. In more than 15 years of polling by the Pew Research Center, half of America has traced their roots to Spanish-speaking Latin American, and Spain have consistently said that they have no preference for either Hispanic or Latino as a term to describe the group. And then one term is chosen over other. The term Hispanic has been preferred to Latino. Importantly, the STEM survey showed countries of origin levels such as Mexican or Cuban or Ecuadorian are preferred to those pan-ethnic terms among the population they are meant to describe. Demographic and social contributions of the Latinx population. In their 2022 study, Gonzalez-Corta and other scholars agree that the Latinx population in the United States played a significant role in shaping the cultural landscape and contributing to the nation's diversity. This community encompasses individuals with diverse diversity, linguistic, cultural, and regional backgrounds, including those from countries in Latin America such as Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, El Salvador, and the Dominican Republic, among others. The Latinx population represents the fastest growing ethnic group in America, estimated to reach 111 billion by 2060. Already 1 in 5 Americans identify as Hispanic or Latino. According to Nuevo Bustamante, this demographic expansion demands policymakers prioritize needs that respond to the makeup of the population that has a diverse background with influence in the culture, including the Spanish language that, along with English, promotes the bilingualism that enhances communication, foster cultural exchange, and strengthens ties between the U.S. and Latin America. Latinx culture powerfully shapes national identity, from cuisine, music, and entertaining, shaping mainstream popular culture, to political class in the states with dense Hispanic populations like California, Texas, and Florida. Shared history as colonized people also creates bonds between the Latinx communities across North, Central, and South America. The economic impact of the Latinx population on the United States has been the subject of different studies since the Latinx immigrants' descendants had become crucial drivers, bolstering various industries like agriculture, construction, meat processing, hospitality, sports, entertainment, and so forth, with a cost-effective labor sources. First-generation immigrants contribute over $2 trillion on the internal annual economy of the country. Meanwhile, the Latinx entrepreneurship continues rising across female and young cohorts. One of the areas that is drawing more attention is the social-political activism. Youth-led immigration reforms movements demonstrate the influential grassroots advocacy and voting power the Latinx community flexes for progress on issues disproportionately impacting them, from the healthcare access to racial justice. CR, on their study on 2023, indicated that Latinx, Hispanic, or Latinx individuals are racially and ethnically heterogeneous group of people with wildly different origins, migration history, cultural and traditional beliefs, economic and psychosocial status, language proficiency, and levels of acculturation to the dominant culture. There is much more that can be told about Latinx population. Among others, acknowledging that the Latinx population grew, they have cultural vibrancy, their economic and socio-political activism shines light on the essential role this diverse community playing in shaping America's trajectory. Their needs and voices should be amplified accordingly. The presence of the Latinx population is woven into the fabric of the United States. Their unique characteristics distinguish them from other groups of people. Their presence brings a wealth of history, cultural values, challenges, hopes, and dreams. And this population is distributed along the country. So let's talk about where they are, where the Latinx population is located in the United States. In the 2010 report, the author Aurelio Sáenz highlights that Latinos are a diverse people from Spanish-speaking countries, and that the recent rapid growth of the Latinx population should not overshadow their long history and presence in the United States. Mexicans are the largest segment of the Latino population in the United States, accounting for 2/3 of the Latinos in 2009. The 10 largest segments of the Latino population include Mexican with 32 million, Puerto Rican with 5 million, Salvadorian with 2 million, Cuba with almost 2 million, Dominican Republic with 1 million and half, Guatemalan with 1 million, Colombian also with 1 million, and Honduras with 500,000 according to the census of 2016. Latinos make up 21% of the estimated 40 million of family caregivers in the United States who provide unpaid care to their families and other adult loved ones. Yet, the number of studies on Latino Alzheimer's disease and caregivers remain relatively low, or does not explicitly address the unique cultural nuances of this population. To better understand, it is crucial to start by defining culture. Culture, broadly defined, consists of patterns of behaviors and values implicit or explicit acquired and transmitted independent of genes. It is a group of people that share, believe, and internalize ways of being and seeing life. And another definition, culture sets the stage for how and what people believe, how they behave, solve their problems, and communicate, how their identity and interpersonal relationships develop, and how they adjust to change and handle stressors. Culture can be a barrier or facilitator, thus playing an important role in providing health services to Latino communities in the United States. When analyzing risk factors making the Latinx population more prone to Alzheimer's disease, the social determinants of health are on top of the list. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the social determinants of health that broadly impact Alzheimer's disease and other dementias include the social-economic characteristics such as lower level of education, higher rates of poverty, and greater exposure to adversity and discrimination, which are also more prevalent in underrepresented racial and ethnic groups. A large percentage of Hispanics and Latinos have poor access to healthcare services throughout their lives, and this does not change as they age. Latinos have a lower likelihood of seeking and receiving healthcare services than the total U.S. population. They have also lower access to and receipt of health care is related to lower health insurance coverage, 76% versus 91%. And then we have the language barriers that also play a significant role in hindering the access to existing healthcare services. A study conducted by McLaren in 2010 indicates that different from many other health problems, persons living with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias become dependent on others to advocate for their health and their best interests, since the disease has an association with cognitive behaviors causing memory impairment. The Latinx at the highest level of informal care, meaning they rely on the community or family members for care and assistance. Roth and other scholars on 2019 indicate that informal care can create a large gap in obtaining knowledge and all the beneficial health outcomes for people living with ADHD. Efforts to promote health equity within the Latinx community are essential to address existing health disparities and improve overall well-being. By acknowledging the diversity within the Latinx population and understanding the cultural and contextual influence that shape their experiences, healthcare providers can deliver more effective and culturally sensitive care. And the Latino families provide more intense caregivers in terms of hours and level of care than other populations, yet access less community support services than other ethnic groups. Diversity and culture within the Latinx population. So when we talk about the Latinx population, it is impossible not to talk about culture and the cultural values. What makes this group of people significantly different among other minorities? The Latinx cultural values encompass a rich tapestry of tradition, belief, and practices that reflect the diverse heritage of Latin American and Hispanic communities. Latinx individuals often prioritize family, community, and resilience as the core cultural value. These values are deeply rooted in historical experiences, social norms, and familiar relationships that shape the identity and the worldviews of the Latinx people. Family plays a central role in Latinx culture, with a strong emphasis on close-knit familial ties, respect for elders, and the concept of familism or familismo, highlighting the importance of family unit and support. Overall, Latin cultural values are multifaceted and dynamic, reflecting a blend of traditions, beliefs, and experiences that contribute to the rich cultural tapestry of Latin American and Hispanic communities. According to Powers and other scholars from 2006, they indicated that different sociocultural factors affect perceptions and attitudes toward caregiving, such as belief, values, cultural norms, faith, and the perception of the aging process. Latinx communities tend to have extended family networks that understand caregiving as a familial obligation. Lozada, on the study in 2006, indicated that adults in Latinx communities generally do not question the need to provide care to an aging parent, grandparent, or family member with a disability. Their main goal is to keep the family close, living at home with them, rather than sending a loved one to a nursing facility for caregiving because of the highest caregiving role responsibility. Rosa and Fuentes on 2020 argued that being family-oriented can sometimes overburden the family and lead to caregiver stress. Hispanic families experience higher levels of dementia and caregiver burden linked to the cultural values they support, which might serve as a protective against dementia caregiver burden, but equally place them at an elevated risk for descent. Sociocultural values and expectations might improve or worsen the emotional well-being of dementia caregivers. Intersecting characteristics define the Latinx population. Social isolation is often connected to poor health outcomes. Everyone at any age can experience social isolation, but it is more likely among older adults. Latinos often migrate to the United States to escape economic hardship and offer their loved ones a better life. Yet, with immigration comes social isolation and poor emotional support, leaving their homes, and that also means losing social networks, community ties, and close bonds with family members. The Latino community does not only suffer for geographical and cultural isolation, many ties, but they also suffer from linguistic isolation. A large percentage of Hispanic Latinos have poor access to healthcare services throughout their lives, and this does not change as they age. Latinos have a lower likelihood of seeking and receiving healthcare services than the total U.S. population. Lower access to and receiving of healthcare is related to lower health insurance coverage, 71% versus 91%, and language barriers. Intersecting characteristics of the Latin population that increase their vulnerability. The Latinx population in the United States has intersecting characteristics that increase their vulnerability in various aspects of life. These intersecting characteristics include immigration status, educational disparities, language barriers, and socioeconomic challenges. Understanding these intersecting factors is crucial for understanding the unique needs and vulnerabilities of the Latinx population. So let's start addressing issue 10 so we can have a context into what issue these intersecting factors looks like and what it means. The first one is the immigration status. Immigration status significantly impacts the vulnerability of the Latinx population. Many Latinx individuals and families are immigrants or have family members who are immigrants. Undocumented immigrants face numerous challenges, including limited access to healthcare, education, and legal employment opportunities. The fear of deportation and family separation adds to their vulnerability, leading to increases in stress and mental health issues. Latinx individuals often face scholarly disparities, including lower rates of high schools and college completion compared to other racial and ethnic groups. This educational disparity contributes to limited access to higher paying jobs and economic opportunities, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and vulnerability. Language barriers can increase vulnerability among the Latinx population. The limited English proficiency can hinder access to essential services such as healthcare, legal assistance, and education. These barriers exacerbate disparities in health outcomes and economic stability. The Latinx population experiences significant socioeconomic challenges, including higher rates of poverty and limited access to affordable housing and healthcare. These challenges intersect with other factors such as immigration status and educational disparities, further increasing vulnerability within the community. In conclusion, the intersecting characteristics of immigration status, scholarly disparity, language barriers, and socioeconomic challenges contribute to the increased vulnerability of the Latinx population in the United States. Latinx and ADRT, what the data says. According to the Alzheimer's Disease Past and Future reports on 2023, Alzheimer's could start developing 20 years. Listen to this. 20 years or more before memory loss and other symptoms develop. The Alzheimer's Association's in the 2019 Facts and Figures report indicates that multiple studies support the idea that this is a disease that is debilitating and progressive. There is no cure at the moment, rather than different treatments involving medication, adjustments in lifestyle, and community support to slow the disease progress. It was also noted that ADHD impacts minorities at a higher rate. An estimated 6.7 million of Americans aged 65 and older were living with Alzheimer's dementia in 2023. 72% are 75 older. Of the U.S. population, about 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older has Alzheimer's or any dementia. The percentage of population living with Alzheimer's and dementia increases with age by 5% of people aged between 65 to 74 years old. 13.11% of people ages 75 to 84, and 33.3% of people aged 85 years old and older. People younger than 65 can also develop Alzheimer's and dementia. Although prevalence studies of younger onset dementia in the United States are limited, researchers believe that about 110 of every 100,000 people ages 30 to 64 years old, or about 200,000 of Americans in total, have younger onset of dementia. Studies have indicated that the Hispanic Latinx caregivers might be influenced by cultural values such as familism. Herein, the needs of the families are greater than the individuals. However, the younger population of the Latinx caregivers who were born in the United States might be influenced by other phenomena such as assimilation. The differences between the U.S.-born and the immigrant Hispanic Latinx caregivers highlights the implications of the dynamics between caregivers and care receivers. According to Martinez and other scholars in 2021, many caregivers within the Hispanic and Latinx community do not realize they are caregivers or do not identify themselves as one of them or with that trend. Some think they do what they should do for their family and loved ones. However, this full-time job requires adequate conditions to fulfill the task, live in peace, and fully develop as a caregivers or in other roles in life. These people need to have the training, the preparation, the information, and the conditions to be able to provide quality of care for the loved ones. Latinx immigration history. In talking about the Latin immigration history, diversity is the inevitable word. This population has a long and documented immigration history that has shaped the cultural background of the United States. The following are some of the remarks on history. Early 20th century, the first significant wave of Latinx immigration began in the early 20th century, sparked by the Mexican Revolution and driven by labor demands. By 1930, over 1.4 million Mexican immigrants had entered the U.S., many as agricultural workers. The Puerto Rican immigration in 1917 started with the Jones Act granted Puerto Ricans U.S. citizenship, enabling migration stateside. Economic instability and industrialization incentives promoted mass movement to cities like New York and Chicago from 1940 to 1960. Post-World War II boom, the Latinx immigrant population nearly doubled the almost 30.5 million by 1960. The Bracero program brought over 4 million Mexican temporary workers, though many stayed permanently. The Caribbean migration also rose after Cuba's 1959 revolution. In 1980, over civil wars in Central America drove asylum seekers from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua in the 1980s. The 1990 Immigration Act then increased Latin American migration further, followed by a spike in unauthorized immigration by 2000. The 21st century trends Latinx currently comprise over 50% of all U.S. immigrants. Though Mexican immigration has declined recently, Central Americans fleeing violence and Venezuelans escaping unrest continue rising. Family reunification and service, constructions, jobs remain key drivers. Immigration impact on the Latinx population. In a study conducted by Torres and other scholars in 2018 and published on the American Psychologist's Journey, it was concluded that Latin American immigrants contribute to the American society by benefiting the economy, professional sector, and cultural fabric of the country. As mental health providers, it's crucial to pay careful attention to the harmful impacts of the immigration policies on Latino communities. Hence, working collaboratively with researchers, policymakers, and communities to improve mental health and advocate for humane immigration policies. Immigration policies affects restrictive policies have disproportionately affected Latinx immigrants, leading to deportations, separating families, hate and marginalization, and barriers accessing healthcare or education due to legal status issues. Anti-immigrant political rhetoric also fuels racism and employment discrimination against perceived foreigners. While Latinx immigrants provide affordable labor in multiple industries, many remain concentrated on unstable and low-wage jobs without benefits or protection. Lack of recognized credentials or language barriers prevent career mobility too. Yet, the Latinx community resists these constraints through entrepreneurship and reliance on familial social capital. Immigration status intersects with various health disparities driven by lack of insurance, income inequality, and reluctance accessing services due to deportation fears or cultural language discordance with the white-centric systems. Studies document worsened mental health, in particular among Latinx immigrants and community, due to these factors. Cultural identity shifts from both new immigrants and settled Latinx families. Cultural identities evolve through processes like acculturation, cultural rotation, hyphenated fusion. Studies reveal complex generational dynamics as parents resistant assimilation, while youth adopt aspects as American individualism amid family traditions. The recommendations for scholars include the ways the healthcare providers can contribute positively to mitigate the trauma, distress, and mental health difficulties that stem from immigration policies. Providers can adopt a counter-sensitive framework with working with immigrant clients and tailor evidence-based treatment. Moreover, understanding the stages of immigration can help conceptualize how stress and trauma might accumulate over time and worsen it upon immigration. Therefore, providers must also become advocates in their own work by educating immigrants on their rights and linking families to the legal support. In summary, despite many social and economic challenges intensified by anti-immigrant policies, the Latinx community continues displaying incredible resilience, resourcefulness, and cultural pride. However, greater political inclusion and reduced discrimination are needed to ease complex structural constraints. Familism as the prevalent characteristics among the Latinx population. Individuals from the Latinx heritage navigate complex identity development influenced by factors like immigration, generational status, country of origin pride, degree of assimilation or cultural retention, phenotypical attributes, and experiences of marginalization. Mental health disparities emerge tied to discrimination and unstable legal status barriers too at the individual level. Families' cultural values like feminism are gender caregiving expectations mediating Latinx family dynamics with multi-generational households common for pooling incomes and sharing care responsibilities. Ayon and other authors on the study of 2010 indicated that mixed immigration statuses fragment families through the risk of deportation. Parents' balance retain cultural traditions while children integrate into the dominant American cultural norms. The community's spatial segregation concentrates Latinx populations in certain geographical regions and neighborhoods where cultural markers proudly display groups' identity. However, these ethnoforbs face environmental racism and resource deprivation. Still, solid social networks positively reinforce educational attainments, health outcomes, and economic mobility through community culture will. The diverse Latinx group experiences hold an unifying traits when examining the multidimensional impacts on individuals, families, and communities attempting to navigate life in the U.S., a nation that is still grappling with its identity as a settled colony. As the Latinx population grows, it represents a substantial portion of the U.S. demographic makeup. It is crucial to recognize and address the unique needs and challenges this community faces. Latinx individuals often encounter disparities in healthcare access and services due to various factors such as language barriers, lack of insurance coverage, and cultural differences. The underrepresentation of Latinx healthcare providers further exacerbates these challenges, highlighting the importance of culturally competent care for this population. According to a study by Rogelio Sainz in 2010, the U.S. population growth has been fueled by a youthful Latino population over the last few decades. Today, half of all people added to the U.S. population in a given year are Latino, and this share will increase in the upcoming decades. The United States will see a major aging of this population as the first cohort of baby boomers, those that at that time are reaching their retirement ages. As is already the case in states such as Arizona, California, Florida, and Texas, the opposite end of the nation's age spectrum would feature a predominantly white elderly population and an increasingly Latino youth population. Latino would increasingly be part of all societal institutions as both consumers and sources of services. Latinos can be viewed as an asset that provides major economic benefits rather than a liability that drains the economy. The participation of the Latinx population in the U.S. society requires an intentional effort to understand their history marked by colonialism, the struggles to face the process of adaptation, reunification, and their generational characteristics that mixes first and second generations divided by the language. Therefore, addressing their needs requires understanding the nuances of the culture. In research, practice, advocacy, education, and policy development relevant to the Latino community, adopting inclusive study designs, bias-free language guidelines, and diverse samples, it is essential to ensure accurate representation and understanding of the Latinx experience. It is also relevant to observe a collaborative partnership with community-based organizations and faith-based groups that are vital in meeting the evolving needs of the Latinx community and promoting the health equity. Wow, it has been a very intense, fully packed with information about defining who the Latinx population is. It has been amazing, everything that we have learned today, from history, from all the realities that they face, trying to find their way in the United States, to growing to be a very important sector of society at very different levels. This episode has been enriched with concrete information that allows the audience to acknowledge the realities of the Latinx group in the United States, their uniqueness in terms of history, immigration, and cultural values, among others, and the importance acquired through their strong presence in the fabric of this country. I am pleased to invite you to continue listening into our podcast, The Memory Keepers. Each episode will help us understand the realities that the Latinx caregivers of ADHD patients face when navigating the systems of care. In our next episode, we will discuss the realities of the Latinx caregivers, cultural values, gender roles, the process of adaptation and acculturation as a need to survive. To our audience, please remember to continue listening and to spread the word. Thank you for listening to our podcast. The invitation is open to continue gaining knowledge and enriching perspectives about the fastest growing minority of the United States.
Remember that at the end of the series, you can complete a questionnaire as a requirement to obtain a certificate of completion. To access, please contact sylvia.bernaza2@siemens.edu.